Yes.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Up in Your Business with Kerry McCoy, a production of flagandbanner.com. Through storytelling and conversational interviews, this weekly radio show offers listeners first-hand insight in starting and running a business, the ups and downs of risk-taking, and the commonalities of successful people. Connect with Kerry through her candid, often funny, and informative weekly blog, where you'll read and comment on life as wife, mother, daughter, and entrepreneur. And now it's time for Kerry McCoy to get all up in your business.
You're listening to KABF in Little Rock, Arkansas. I'm Kerry McCoy, and it's time for me to get all up in your business. By that I mean to say, share my business knowledge and wisdom with you, our listeners. For the next hour, my guest and fellow entrepreneur will be discussing how we maneuvered the path of entrepreneurship in pursuit of our dreams. The hope is that if you own or want to own a small business, you will gain some insights today of the risks and the rewards. We'll also be answering questions and giving advice via phone, email, or you can tweet us. Now, you may be asking yourself, what qualifies this lady to do this? And the answer is easy: experience. I started my company, Arkansas Flag and Banner, over 40 years ago with a meager $400. During the last 4 decades, Arkansas Flag and Banner has grown from door-to-door sales to telemarketing to mail order and catalog sales, and now we rely heavily on the internet. Each change in sales strategy required a change in company thinking and procedures. My wisdom, confidence, and my company grew. My initial $400 investment now produces nearly $4 million in annual sales. In this next hour, here is what not to expect. Don't expect textbook answers or pie-in-the-sky theories, but what you will hear is a candid conversation about real-world experiences on topics I hope you'll find interesting. So be prepared for the truth. It's not always easy to hear. For example, in business, there are very few overnight successes. I worked part-time jobs for 9 years before Arkansas Flag and Banner grew enough to support just me. It's now grown and expanded so much that to operate efficiently, we require, are you ready for this? A purchasing, manufacturing, graphic, shipping, technology, accounting, marketing, sales, and customer service department. Plus, we have a retail store. 25 people, or really maybe more now, make their living from working at Arkansas Flag and Banner. But that didn't happen overnight. Starting and owning a business takes persistence, perseverance, and patience. I hope you'll take advantage of this unique opportunity today by calling or emailing me on today's show. But before we get started, I want to introduce you to the people at the table. We have Tim Bowen, our technician, who will be taking your calls and pushing the buttons. Say hello, Tim.
Hello, Tim.
My guest today is so interesting. It's Lorre Parrish, co-owner of Sheridan White Rock, Inc. It's a rock quarry near Sheridan, Arkansas, known for its rare deposit of milky white silica quartz. Lorre, having grown up in the mining industry, decided to try something else when she graduated high school and got a law degree from the University of Arkansas School of Law. 14 years ago, after practicing law for 10 years, Lorre and her sister, Tera Harper, went back into the family business of mining at the White Rock Quarry in Sheridan, Arkansas. Welcome to the table, Lorre.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Tell me about this decision to leave your law practice and go back into the family business.
Well, in 2002, my dad came to me and said that he thought maybe he would like to retire, and suggested that my sister and I consider buying them out. And so, it was a lot to think about and to get your head around or whatever after having not lived in this area for 10 years and, owning my own business in a different way to come back home and take over the family business. But, it was just the right thing to do, and it felt really exciting at the time, and it's been a great decision for us, I think, to be able to continue on something that my dad worked so hard to begin.
Did your dad start it, or did he buy it from somebody?
Well, it was a little mom and pop quarry when my dad and his business partner purchased it in 1973. the young Smith man that owned it initially just basically sold in bulk. And so it was an ongoing quarry that my parents purchased, but they expanded it well beyond what it was doing initially.
And you grew up working in the mine.
Well, yes, I grew up with my mom and dad running the business my whole life. And so, on Saturdays when, I would go to work with my dad, and around the dinner table every night, that's what my parents talked about, were the decisions that they were making and the things that they were doing. And so, I got a good bit of that growing up for sure.
But it made you decide you wanted to go to law school.
Yeah, it's hard when you hear that all the time to then think about doing that your whole life. I don't know. I think that everybody wants to try something different, but it's surprising how you always kind of come back home, I guess.
And you're glad you did.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
And was your sister hard to convince?
No, my sister's a nurse by education. And so, I think that she thought the same as me, is that our educational backgrounds didn't really equip us very well to run a business like this. But I think she's been very delighted that she took the bite too.
Do you both work there every day?
No, it's usually one or the other of us. Sometimes both, but most of the time you'll get her or you'll get me.
I can't wait to learn about this business. And so I want to take a break, though. And when we come back, we're going to find out what makes the Sheridan's White Rock so special and how we might possibly use it for our own personal use, like maybe landscaping. So at the break, I'm asking Lorre about these 3 kinds of rocks, and she was pretty smart about it. One's a sediment, one's volcanic.
The other was metamorphic?
I think so, yeah. It said there's only 3 kinds of rock. Is that true?
I'm not a geologist.
I know. I was going to ask you if you had to be a geologist to be in your business.
I'm sure that it would be helpful, but no person who owns a quarry that I know is truly a geologist.
Tell me, what makes the rock so special?
Well, predominantly it's color. There's very few naturally occurring white river rocks. It's just really rare and unique. And its chemical composition also makes it rare. It's 98 or so % silica quartz, which makes it super hard and white. And those things in combination are just really rare. Like most of the things that you think of when you think of a white rock are things like marble chips, for example. And that's kind of a really soft rock and not really as suitable for things like, and one of the major things that we do with our material is we crush it into something very fine, and we sell it to be plastered on the inside of gunite swimming pools. And because of its hardness and its white color, it's super desirable for that application. And it's just, it just doesn't exist in very many places like this. And
I don't know why anybody would ever use anything else.
Well, some people don't like it because it's white, right? Like they want something kind of natural colored. And so for a landscaping application, sometimes it sort of goes in and out with the seasons. But for sure, the inside of commercial swimming pools have to be white. And because our rock is so hard, it's just super desirable to be plastered in that way. And we have orders from all over the nation, really, for people demanding our material to be used like that.
Is it hard to keep up with the demand?
Yes.
If are you pacing yourself so you don't run out of rock?
Yeah, and so I think that's one of the biggest things about owning your family's business is that, you think of yourselves kind of as stewards. Like, it's not really about just making money today, but about trying to find a way to be able to maintain the business and its money-making capabilities maybe for generations yet to come. And so that really has led my sister and I to really consider our rates of depletion, and we have set them, and we, so that we can hopefully maintain the business for a really long period of time, long enough for her kids and
your kids,
my kids, if they.
So you're thinking 40 more years?
Yes.
And so you set a pace that you're going to go at. So
yes.
And when it's all gone, what do you do with the quarry after it's all been depleted? I mean, I know when I was a kid, we used to go swimming in, I think those were bauxite quarries, though.
Mm-hmm. Well, we, early in our company's history, we did reclaim some of our land into ponds. And so on some of our acreage, we do have some ponds down there. My nephew fishes down there all the time. But in later years, and now we reclaim back into timberland. And so after we've depleted or dug out all the rock, we actually reclaim the land back in such a way that we can plant pine trees or something on top. And
Is pine tree the only one that'll probably grow in a rock quarry?
well, once the rock's gone, it's just land.
It's just land.
It is for us. It is. That's the way that we reclaim.
And the fact that it's dug out and deep doesn't create a water issue for the trees, or
Well, there's a huge water issue down there. The water tables, it's in the Saline River bottoms, and so there's a lot of water to contend with
Already.
once you get down into the pit to dig the water away. But then as you reclaim and fill those holes back in and level off the surface, really it's no wetter than the land around it was initially. And so pine trees grow there. It would reforest itself naturally if you just let it, and just from the vegetation that's, growing around on the land that's adjacent to it. So
So you think you've got the white rock because you live in Arkansas, and Arkansas is the diamond state? Do you think that we have quartz crystals already?
So there's a good bit of similarity in the chemical composition between the quartz crystals and this milky white silica quartz. It has a little bit of a difference in the look. Like, it doesn't crystal up, like it doesn't really form the same shapes. This looks more like a river rock. But there is a good bit of similarity. Geologists think of it a little bit as an anomaly. They can't find an upstream source for this material, so they're not really sure exactly where it came from.
And once it's gone, it's gone.
Once it's gone, it's gone.
Is there any environmental ramifications of it being gone off of our planet? Does it matter?
Well, I've heard lots of reports lately that maybe even as early as 2050, there's going to be a shortage worldwide of construction components, kind of in general, like things like sand and gravel and those sorts of things. We're depleting at a huge rate and using in things like concrete and asphalt and building supplies. And so, there is a ramification. The absence of those materials is going to put us all in a more costly situation for construction, but and environmentally, I guess that, when you go in and remove the trees off some parcel of land and dig down in there, and it's not exactly the same as it was before, but we don't treat the rock with anything. We just wash it with water, which we have a pond. We use the pond water to wash the rocks. We recapture the water. We let the dirt settle out. We use the clean water to wash the rock again. And so, as far as the impact in that regard,
when I'm at the grocery store and I'm in a parking lot and I see all this white rock used as landscaping, is that your rock?
It is, unless it's marble chips. But my deposit of material is predominantly white, but it has an occasional gray stone in it, which is naviculite, which is kind of the stuff that they use to make like whetstones and stuff. And then it has an occasional pink quartzy colored material in it as well. And that's just the way it looks when you dig it out of the ground.
I see that rock everywhere, and it looks like it's about an inch.
We size it. Naturally existing in the deposit, the vast majority of the rocks are 2 inches or smaller in our deposit. There's very few things that come out of there really bigger in size than about 2 inches. And we screen out a size that we call landscape. It's about 3/4 of an inch to 1.25 inches. And we sell that rock to be used in that application sized that way.
So you have to have a big sifter that sifts through and gravels out different sizes. And
yeah, it's like a multi-deck screen. And so, yeah. And
the little ones get through, then the next ones are on the next level.
Exactly, like that.
You said something, and I quote, you said one of your goals was to continue our long-standing tradition of providing quality materials and superior service to our customers. And I was thinking, how does a rock quarry give superior service?
So, our business really is unique, right? We do 3 things sort of exclusively. We sell the landscape rock that we've really talked about, but that's really sort of a small percentage of what we really do. We take material that's smaller than 1/2 inch and we size it and dry it in a rotary kiln dryer and sell it to be mixed with a resin and epoxy decked on top of concrete surfaces. And so in addition to the white rock that we mine locally, we bring in 27 other colors from other quarries all over the nation and specially process it to be used in this application. And like getting the sizing and the color and the processing right is super important to our customers, and it's really the thing that we do really well.
And you process it there in Sheridan, Arkansas?
Yes, our quarry site's actually located about 13 miles southwest of town, but in the actual town of Sheridan, we have warehouse facilities and some 20 employees who wash, screen, sometimes crush, size, bag, ship material all over the nation. And so that epoxy decking material, we dry in a rotary kiln dryer. All the internal moisture has to be gone from the rock, or the minute that it's mixed together and encapsulated in that epoxy and trialed down over a concrete surface and the sun hits it, that water's going to come out of the rock and it'll cloud up the inside of the epoxy. And so it's super important to our customers that we have to get it just right. And so, that's the thing that really, like my dad's, he's set up on a system and really has really sort of laid the foundation for us to be able to do that in a way that's really good for our customers. We really do excel in getting that just right for them.
I don't think of that as a mom and pop operation. I bet the people that your father bought it from weren't doing that. So
no.
Your father honed that, created that. Did he create that process?
No.
Is he an engineer?
No, he should be. Like, he has the ability to make or build or do anything, which is the quality I wish I had gotten from him, right? More than anything. But in 1976, there was sort of the beginning of that market was kind of coming upon us, and he just saw the opportunity and went to a junk sale and bought the pieces to build his first dryer for some $600 at a junk sale and built it himself and installed it and set about drawing some rock and figuring it out, and he did, and we've continued to do that since 1976.
So quality control is your customer service that you're talking about. And you even take rocks in, which seems like that'd be really expensive to ship rocks to you.
Yes.
To do this process.
Yes.
And even probably the shipping's more expensive than the product.
Oftentimes.
That's crazy, isn't it? So you ship it in and you process it and then you ship it back out because there's such a large demand, and it's being used for mostly lining already existing concrete pools or concrete driveways.
So we really do two things. So we do epoxy decking rock, which are the rocks that we bring in from other places, and our rock size somewhere from just smaller than half an inch to about 3/32 of an inch. And we bag that and ship it out, and it's basically used decoratively on top of existing concrete surfaces. And then in a different sort of application, we take our rock and crush it into a smaller size and sell that bagged sort of and processed the same way to pool plastering companies all over the United States who plaster it on the inside of gunite swimming pools. And so really, they're kind of two separate, I'm going to say, lines.
They sounds like it.
Right.
One's being bagged and sent to Home Depot?
None of that's being bagged and sent to Home Depot.
What is being bagged and sent to Home Depot?
Landscape size material is being bagged in plastic bags and sent to places like Home Depot, Sutherland's, all sorts of home, Ace Hardware, those sorts of places. But these smaller aggregates are being shipped to installers, mostly to people who are actually going out on the job, tradesmen, craftsmen, and who are doing the actual pool plastering work, not to mom and pop, not for you to do your own swimming pool.
I noticed when I was doing research that everybody calls rock aggregate in your business. I was like, why don't we just call it rock?
I don't know. It sounds nicer, doesn't it?
It does. I was like, what's aggregate? And then I was like, oh, rock. So I love that. Could people come out to your store and just buy from you if they wanted to? Could they just drive up to your quarry and buy from you, or do you just wholesale and sell to people that distribute? But do you ever sell to the end user, I guess is what I'm trying to ask.
We sell landscape size material, like that sort of stuff, either in bulk or bagged in poly bags, and you can buy that from us directly. These other sort of specialty aggregates we distribute to distributors mostly.
To plasters.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And I can't imagine what an end user would do with that.
Yeah, they wouldn't. But the landscape, if I'm landscaping a really large, if I'm landscaping Arkansas Flag and Banner, let's say, and which I've got a big piece of property downtown, I could
come out there with my own truck and load it up, you think?
Yes, you could come to my quarry site if you wanted it loose loaded in the back of your pickup truck or in a truck and trailer, and my guys would, weigh.
And you can get it loose, or you can get it in bags either way?
Well, if you get it in bags, you have to get it at our warehouse facilities in town. If you want it loose loaded, you actually have to go to our quarry
So
site.
how do people call you? Just look you up?
Yeah.
Just look up Sheridan White Rock online and pick up the phone and call you and ask your hours and...
Yeah. Really the bulk of our business is not that.
Right.
Right? And
Right.
Most of the material that we manufacture and distribute goes outside of the state of Arkansas.
Oh, it does?
Almost exclusively.
Really? And why is that? Because we can all go in our backyard and get our own white rock? No, I'm just kidding.
Gunite swimming pools are not very common here for starters. I think just because of the soil composition, most people use vinyl liner pools. And so that sort of application is just not as common here as it is in places like California and Florida and South Texas, where every pool that exists under the sun must be gunite swimming pools. And, epoxy decking is just not as popular here as it is in other areas of the nation. And so there's just not as much demand here.
Well, if I do it, I am definitely doing it that way. I'm going to use my local products if I ever make a pool.
Well, I think it would be great.
I know. I'm surprised we don't use it more. You're listening to Up in Your Business with Kerry McCoy. I'm speaking today with Lorre Parrish, co-owner of Sheridan White Rock Quarry that mines a rare deposit of milky white silica quartz. So, you're a miner's daughter, but it's not coal, Lorre. But you said, when that came on, you said that your quarry, though, is subject to the same regulations. And you're a lawyer, so I bet that comes in handy.
Well, regulatory compliance is... It really is probably the most cumbersome portion of owning a quarry, and it's true. Even sand and gravel quarries are subject to the same mine health safety administrations as coal mines are, even though exclusively in Arkansas, almost every quarry that I can think of is an open pit mine as opposed to something underground. And really, it's not the same sort of considerations, but yet you're saddled with the same regulatory issues.
Do you have safety issues or problems much? You have really large equipment, it sounds like.
Yes, but I also have a very experienced workforce. Most of the, especially in key positions, most of the people that work for us have worked for us since I was a kid, a good many of them. And so they're super conscientious and really experienced. And, heavy equipment, of course, always comes with some risk and machinery and all of those sorts of things. But we've never really had any sort of... I hate that I've said that out loud because probably I'm going to jinx myself.
No, you're not. You have a great record and you've never had any problems. I can't believe people work for you for so long. People love that business. Or they love working for you or your dad.
Maybe my dad before me. More so than me, I'm sure. My sister.
A lot of times when a small business changes hands, the employees are loyal to the parents and they don't stay on.
I'm sure second generation family business owners have the same problem, I'm sure, everywhere. It's hard. It's hard to fill the shoes of the person that comes before you. It's hard to, to make new decisions and to make changes while maintaining the culture and the feeling of the things that came before you. It's something I think that we struggle with a lot just because, everybody has such respect for my parents and they're amazing. And
are they still around?
Mm-hmm,
Do they come down there?
Oh, yes. And my dad, even last year, maybe the year before, we expanded our production facilities in town. And my dad came and helped us, shop build some of the equipment that we installed and offered some suggestions. And, it's great. He's great to help us with things like that. And really, that is my deficiency. He's so great about being able to see how the equipment should all come together and what sort of repairs and how it should all be laid out. And, that's just not my experience. It's not my strong suit. And so I appreciate the fact that he's still willing and able to come. And
so how many employees do you have?
Right now, maybe 26 or 27. We're gearing up just a little bit. Things will get a little busier for us going into April and May. And so maybe 30 or 31 or 2.
Because everybody's landscaping, building pools.
And yes, because people are, and epoxy decking really is quite seasonal. The weather has to be above 40 degrees in the area where the installation's happening. And so that really is the most seasonal of our bagging portion of our operation. And so it kind of kicks off sometimes between March 15th and April 15th and goes and through the summer typically.
I want to talk about the size of your land and how people can know if they have good land. But before we move off that talking about your rock. You say it's silica rock, which makes it really hard. And you said, I read somewhere that you make silica steel and computer chips with it.
So we have since the beginning, our rock's done a lot of different things, and there were times when they actually used it to make computer chips. And I mean, it really is hard, like maybe a 9 on the hardness scale, which is pretty rare.
That's really fascinating to me.
The deposit's really unique, and just because it just doesn't exist like that anywhere else. And so
how big's your land? I looked at it online because you have a picture of it on your website. Y'all should go to Sheridan Rock's website, White Rock website, and see your land. I love looking at the quarry from the aerial view. It was fabulous.
I'm not sure I know the exact acreage. I'm going to say somewhere between 600 and 800 acres. We typically, though, permit, in order to be able to mine at your facility, you have to have a permit from the Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality. And so we typically permit in about 40-acre swatches. And so, we're actively mining on about 40, right now 60 acres. But so that's typically what we do. We mine it, reclaim it, and then move on to the next parcel.
So I have let's say I do, I don't, but let's say I have a big piece of land in maybe a rocky area. How would I go about finding out if I had any good rock? Can you just see it on top of the surface, or do you call out a geologist who digs down like you're looking for a well and a water source and see if you can find some levels of rock?
Well, most of the rock in Arkansas is like the rock you would see on a mountain. You know what I mean? Like it's
brown.
Like you would see the rock maybe in outcroppings. And that rock really, there's no real commercial application for that. Would you be
able to see your beautiful white rock if you hadn't, or was originally the first person could see it?
So the story is that the gentleman who purchased the land initially was hunting there in this rural area in South Grant County in the 1950s. And as he approached a stream bed, that some of the rock had sort of washed. The depth of the rock kind of varies over the acreage. Like there are some places that it's quite close to the surface, and then some areas where it's maybe under 15 or 18 feet of dirt. But especially around washes or creeks or whatever, you could see the rock in the bed of the creek, and he saw it there. And supposedly the story is he was from some Midwestern state and had some experience selling or mining rock and recognized its potential, especially for application in landscaping, and straight away bought the property, made arrangements to buy the property, and set in to start digging there. And
so there wasn't a big white mountain that he went, oh, look at that white bluff.
No.
It was through a stream that he saw it wash down. And he was like, look at these pretty white rocks in the stream. I wonder where they're coming from.
Yeah, and he started doing some investigation and found it and realized that he could sell it, and he thought he could make some money. And so
that's pretty cool.
It is cool.
So how do you excavate? You just take out your what's the process? You go out there with your backhoe, I guess?
Track hoe. We track hoe dig. Think of it like digging a pond, I'm going to say. So he goes out there and he's going to set his track hoe down, and in a swath around him, he's going to remove the topsoil and preserve that. And then he's going to take the overburden, the dirt that's on top of the deposit of gravel, and he's going to then stockpile that as well for reclamation.
Stockpile it, make a big pile.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. And so that when he's dug all the rock out, he's going to put that back in the hole.
I gotcha.
Right? And so then he just digs out the gravel and loads it into these huge 75-ton articulated dump trucks that take it to the plant to be washed and sized.
And that plant is off-site. It's in downtown.
Well, so we have a plant at our quarry site that washes and sizes initially, and then the material comes to town. The smaller aggregates come to town and are washed again and sized again
and sifted
and dried in a dryer and bagged
dried
and shipped all over the nation.
That is just a fabulous business. So what is it you like the very best about?
I guess
besides the money.
Well, I really do like the fact that it's something that my dad was so passionate about. It's something that, he worked really hard to establish, and I like the fact that I feel a little bit like a steward, over something that was super important to him.
What's the part you don't like?
I hate the regulatory compliance. It's so cumbersome and daunting, and those agencies have such power and authority over your business that it's a lot of responsibility.
Do they come out every year?
They come more often than annually. Mine inspectors come at least twice a year, and typically twice a year, plus they come and check your facilities for noise and dust levels. So
it's for safety issues like OSHA, I guess.
Exactly. It's the same sort of an inspection that you might get, only the rules are different.
So if I wanted to get in that business, is it too late for somebody to go, I think I'll go look to buy a rock quarry? Does anyone ever want to sell a rock quarry? I mean,
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I mean, your dad bought it.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't imagine somebody that's got a rock quarry saying, I think I'm tired of doing this.
Really, you'd sort of be surprised. Like, a lot of the people who are quarrying gravel are really experienced miners who are older and more established, and really there might be more of an opportunity for that than you think.
They're getting ready to retire, and their children have moved to the city like you did.
Mm-hmm. No, because most of them are sort of existing in rural areas.
So you put things in 56-pound bags?
56 50-pound bags per pallet.
Oh, 50. Oh, yeah, there you go. 56 50-pound bags.
Per pallet. And so that's how we ship that materials. Bagged and stacked up on a pallet.
What would you think that equipment would be your main expense? It seems like it would be. I mean, you've got 25, 26, 30 employees.
Really, healthcare is my biggest expense. Right.
Really? Yeah. People don't realize that small businesses have become burdened with doing what I think our government should do. Not everybody's going to agree with that, but because our government or for whatever reason, small businesses are burdened with health insurance. I don't know how that ever happened, that we are in charge of the health of the nation. I'm not sure about that.
And, I don't know. I think that I
hear that from a lot of small business people, though.
But I'm grateful we can, is the real truth, right?
Right.
So I don't know. Payroll might be my single biggest, but second to that really might be healthcare costs. And then, of course, there's lots of costs related to equipment and machinery, and a track hoe is a huge amount of money. If you have to buy new equipment like that, those pieces of heavy equipment, they're extremely expensive. And
I would think you could repair them to infinity, though.
You cannot repair them to infinity. We do try at our place, and we do a lot of the maintenance. You just have to. You have to be able to do it yourself in order to ever be successful. And so I'm very lucky that the guys that we have that work there are really capable, and the vast majority of those sorts of things we take care of in-house. But they do not last forever.
It seems like there'd just be nuts and bolts and tires and engines, and you just keep replacing the parts. It doesn't seem like they'd be real complex. Are they computer generated?
So the newer models are, and I think they're doing it to small business owners on purpose. They're, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, especially the EPA, the emissions regulations on new equipment, Tier 4 sort of things. They're just putting you in a position where you can't do the maintenance yourself, and it's just, it adds a huge financial obligation to have people from Little Rock, for example, come down and plug your piece of equipment into the computer to be able to tell you what's wrong with it, and then come back the next day with the part to fix it. And it's
so they're falling into the same pattern that all of our cars are.
Exactly.
You've got to have a computer to do the diagnostics on your large equipment.
It's yes, which makes it increasingly more.
Someone asked me the other day, I had to fill out a survey, and they asked me the other day what were some of my largest expenses. And I would have said payroll or employees, because but we're moving away from hiring and having a lot of employees more towards, it seems like we're moving more towards technology and supporting all these equipment and computers, and keeping the technology running, it seems like, is starting to take over. And I guess they call that Robo sourcing.
Yes, but
in
it's
a weird
hard
sort of way
for us because it's hard to find technically proficient employees.
That's correct.
And so, like, if I had 10 people on the end of the line who are bagging rock, some fairly, some reasonably inexpensive employee and I then automate that, then I have to replace those 10 people with a person who's capable of fixing that line when it goes down. And that person doesn't exist for me. Like finding welders and heavy equipment operators and people with CDLs, like those things are much harder to do than you realize. And the vast majority of the people who are working with those sorts of skills are aging. And there are very few people coming up who have replacement skills available who are going to be able to take their place. And I think we're doing a huge disservice to ourselves, not encouraging younger people to consider occupations like that. A heavy equipment operator, I mean, they make a decent living, and
they make a good living, I think.
Wonderful living.
Yeah, right.
But you never hear somebody say, oh, when I grow up, I want to drive a track hoe.
You know, we had a guy on here the other day who said that he was in the trucking industry and he can't find truck drivers.
No.
There's not enough truck drivers.
And the regulatory issues have become so prohibitive that people can't drive. I mean, it's the same across this industry.
Well, mine is a sewing industry, so you can imagine how hard that is to find people that can sew. Can you sew, Lorre?
Well, enough to make a costume. But
for your daughter, you've got some great news we're going to share when we come back from the break. Listen to Up in Your Business with Kerry McCoy. I'm speaking today with Lorre Parrish, co-owner of the Sheridan White Rock quarry, who mines a specialty milky, opaque silica white rock that's rare and found really in Arkansas. Anywhere else?
There's some similar materials that are found in a couple other places, but the color's not as true and bright white as ours.
So we got an email from Susan in Conway, and she wants to know, you are a woman running a business in a male-dominated field. Have there been any challenges?
You know, I mean, of course I've gotten the whole, as you call to buy a new track hoe, and the salesmen say, well, why don't you go talk about that with the guy who's in charge and get back with me? Like, of course, we all get that. But really, it's not been, you know, like I don't feel like it's been a liability at all. Maybe it's a novelty for people, for me to be, for my sister and me to be women quarrying gravel, but I don't feel like I've been denied something or been less successful as a result of it, really.
I think your novelty, I think that's probably true.
I think a little.
In my business, there are several women in the flag business. There's lots of veterans in the flag business, but there's women in the flag business also because we sew.
Right.
We sew flags, or we used to sew flags. Today, we digitally print everything. It has changed so much. How has the rock business changed? You know, you said that it's dramatically expanded to meet the increasing demand.
I think that probably, you know, it's funny when I think about the question because it feels like it's changed in a lot of ways, but really it's sort of stayed the same. You know what I mean? Like, I think that the procedures we use to extract the gravel and to wash them probably have predominantly stayed the same. Of course, equipment's become more efficient and they have new generations of things. Crushers in particular and screens that they're using today are far more efficient than the ones that my dad would have installed some 20 or 30 years ago. But, you know, the concepts are kind of the same. Really, the changes have come with things like how it is that you get a customer, how you get the sales, you know, all of that. A good bit of that now comes the same as I'm sure for you. It comes through the internet and you know, customers find us in ways that they never were able to before because you have a higher profile online, and we're shipping to more exotic locations, and we're shipping in ways that we've never shipped before, like by rail containers and those
back
sorts
to the
of
railroad.
Things. So they bring out a big van, they put it on the back of a truck, and they bring it to your facility, and you load it, and they go back to the rail yard, and they put that container on a rail train, and it goes to California or wherever it is that you're.
That doesn't seem new. That seems old-fashioned.
Yeah, but it's hugely efficient, and
hugely.
Yes, and so, you know, those sorts of things I think are the changes really more than the changes on the ground with what the guys are actually
Well,
doing.
how would they have
every day.
shipped it before? That seems like the only way to ship rock.
Well, no, probably it is, but you know what I mean? Like, you just wouldn't have shipped that far. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
I see what you're
the
saying.
thought of shipping a rock from Little Rock, Arkansas to California to be used in some application is something that probably nobody would have ever considered, just because the, freight's so prohibitively expensive that they would have locally sourced it, and they would have just settled for whatever it was that they
The
could find.
sky's the limit. When people say America is in a recession, it doesn't feel like it to me. I think there's a big separation between working classes and the disparity of the money and how it's dispersed. But it does seem like people have this money, like you said, to ship it all. There's somebody out there in California that can afford to have your rock shipped all the way out there.
And to be used like in commercial swimming pools, right? Like it's the demand for it continually surprises me. It just does. Like, I'm just amazed that people,
For commercial swimming pools.
predominantly,
For like hotels, I guess.
exactly, because they want the inside of it to be white. So if the kid's floating in the deep end,
Ugh, don't even say it.
well, you know what I mean. Like, right? And
Right.
so, and all over and in huge quantities, and so there have to be a good bit.
So people are vacationing. People
Or-
are landscaping. When I grew up, nobody had a landscaped yard.
Right.
Most landscaped you ever had was someone had a row of azalea bushes. Today we've got landscaping rocks, which is great for your business.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got lots of pools to go with hotels for the people that vacation.
Yeah. And, we haven't even talked about the fact that we sell some sand into sand traps on PGA golf courses.
Wow.
And so, there's all sorts of, but it's, they're mostly high-end kind of applications where they really are maybe more impacted by a downturn in the economy than maybe something else might be.
And since you said that, I looked back and you are doing aggregates for vinyl roofing systems.
Yes, there's a lot of, our customers are innovative, right? Just think about that white rock on the top of a rooftop. It has such a reflective quality that it helps with the energy efficiency of the building by a tremendous amount. And so, especially in green construction, they're looking for materials like that will help reflect the sun's rays and keep the building itself cooler. And so there's been a huge uptick in the application of our materials in that application as well. People are smart, thinking of all sorts of things.
That's good. So what are the challenges that have come from the increase? Just production? But you don't want to use your whole quarry up. So
Right.
you've got to really
It's
pace
finding
yourself.
that
Do you
balance.
want more business? Do you try to solicit more business? Do you advertise?
No. Epoxy decking material, we're ever sort of expanding and we take on new customers. But in the pool plastering market, my sister and I haven't taken on a new customer since we bought the business from my parents 14 years ago.
You haven't had a new customer
in the
area.
pool plastering market, right, in the 14 years. Now, our customers are continuing to grow their market share, which causes problems for us, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't taken on a new customer just because we can't meet the demand.
And continue to keep the quarry functioning for 40 more years.
And, nobody wants to, right, like, it's finding that balance between work and you don't want to have to be down there working 60 hours a week and running 2 shifts, pulling out rock constantly. And even despite the depletion concerns.
Here's a life-work balance you're trying to say. Okay, so let's share your news.
Oh.
Speaking of life-work balance, that was a perfect segue into your next news because you have 2 very talented daughters.
Oh, my sweet 13-year-old just got an email today while I've been here saying that she was accepted to a summer junior theater, Broadway junior theater camp or something this summer. And so she's been blowing my phone up with emails.
And I'm impressed with your daughter because she did her own application.
She did, and her audition video she had to upload to YouTube and attach the link to her application and submit it to the people in New York. And yeah, it was quite the feat.
You have to be very ambitious and very dedicated to want to fight the battle of moving to New York City. Where is this camp? Is she going? Is it New York City?
Mm-hmm.
Is that
Yeah,
what you
it's
said?
on Broadway.
It's on Broadway. To want to fight that battle and to go where everybody wants to go. So she's very ambitious for a 13-year-old.
They're both peachy. My sister's got 2 peachy ones too, and So it's a good thing to want to.
You may not need to keep the rock quarry for them.
Well, you always want to have a fallback position.
They're going to be living in New York. They'll be like, "Well, we're not going back down there to Sheridan, Arkansas."
Don't tell that to Papa. He says fallback positions
Oh, yeah.
are always
Papa
good.
might be listening, yeah. And then you've got an 11-year-old.
And she's a dancer. She's peachy, too.
And she wants to be a prima ballerina, I believe.
Uh-huh,
That's a pretty ambitious thing to want to be.
She's peachy.
I'm sure she's seen the New York Ballet, the first African American.
Misty Copeland.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Her dream for her birthday this year is to see her in her production of The Golden Cockerel in Lincoln Center, like on Friday night, June the 2nd, or whatever that is. Like, that's all that she wants is to see Misty Copeland.
Have you got
that
the
role.
ticket?
They don't go on sale yet, so I'm not sure I can, but I hope to be able to make that happen for her.
Oh my gosh, I'm kind of with her. That's kind of my wish for everything to be.
She wants to be her replacement. That's what she
wants to be a replacement. See, look, what's the key to having your kids be so ambitious?
It's luck. At my house, I can promise you, it's despite me, instead of I can promise you it just happened in spite of me.
Oh, I don't know about that. So I think that you would have to buy. I know that right now Arkansas Flag and Banner needs to buy another expensive piece of equipment. Do you have to buy equipment all the time? We kind of talked
Yes.
about repairing it, but do you have to put it in your budget every year
Yes.
that you've got to buy new equipment to keep up with your?
Yes. And the gravel's real. It's real abrasive, and so equipment doesn't screen everything. It just, because the rock is so hard, especially when it gets down to those really fine particles, it's super abrasive, and so things have a tendency just to wear out because it just eats it up. Like, in our bucket elevators where we size things in screens
I bet it eats those
and,
screens up.
Oh my gosh. And so it's a constant fight, for sure.
What have you learned since you've gone back to work with your family's business?
That despite my law degree and my thinking that I'm a negotiator, that I'm really bad at that. That I am the worst person on the planet at hiring people.
But you don't need to. You've got employees that last forever.
Well, we have, some, the ones who mostly bag at the warehouse or whatever, that sort of have a higher turnover. But
your entry-level positions?
I'm the worst at that. If I swear to you,
Why do you say that?
I cannot hire one that sticks. My sister is so much better at that than me.
So you don't do it?
She does it. I fire. She hires. That's our deal.
Whoa. So I think she got the good deal out of that one. A lot of people can't fire. So what do you think you're really good at besides firing?
Not much.
I don't believe that.
I don't know.
Humility. She's good at humility.
I'm so we have an office manager that's worked for my parents before us, and now for being in Tera the whole time we've been there. She's been working there since 1985, and you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I hope the thing that I do well is appreciate the people who make it easy for us to continue working there. That's what I want to do well, is to appreciate them, because none of us could do it without them. They're also Susan in our offices and the guy who runs my production, like all of them. They're just wonderful, and where would we be without them?
Is there mostly men working at your facility because it's all rocks and hard to?
And we have in our offices, the administrative staff are women, but most of the other people who work there are all men.
Yeah. So I have something at the end of the show that I give to everybody that I cannot wait to give to you, because you and your sister are going to love it since you're in a man's world. So as a gift for your business, even though you didn't birth it, but your parents birthed it and you're keeping it going, you get a cigar for you.
Thank you.
And for your sister, you can go out there in the rock quarry, or you can just give it to one of your great guys as a gift from the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
That's from the Humidor. You're welcome. You are very interesting. That's from the Humidor Room at Colonial Wine and Spirits on Markham Street in Little Rock, Arkansas. I love your business.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome. I'd love to be in that business. Tim,
Come down.
I'd love to come down.
I'll let you drive the traco.
Oh, I'd love to do that. Okay, I'm going to take you up on it, Lorre. Who's the guest next week?
Next week, we're going to be visiting with AETN, the local PBS channel, discussing a documentary that they're doing about a certain Dreamland ballroom.
Oh, boy, is that next week?
That is next week.
So they're going to have the premiere at Ron Robinson on March the 31st. So it's open to the public. It's the premiere at the Ron Robinson Theater. And then on April the 6th, it's on AETN at 7 o'clock. It's going to be aired on TV for the first time on April the 6th. So they're going to come on and talk about it. I love that.
Absolutely.
I love that.
And I bet you we're going to play some songs from performers that used to play at Dreamland.
Aren't you smart? So if you have a great entrepreneurial story you'd like to share, I'd love to hear from you. Send a brief bio and your contact info to questions@upyourbusiness.org, and someone will be in touch. And finally, to our listeners, thank you for spending time with me. If you think this program's been about you, you're right, but it's also about me. Thank you for letting me fulfill my destiny. My hope today is that you've heard or learned something that's been inspiring or enlightening, and that it, whatever it is, will help you up your business, your independence, or your life. I'm Kerry McCoy, and I'll see you next Friday at 2 p.m. on KABF Radio in Little Rock, Arkansas. Until then, be brave and keep it up.
You've been listening to Up in Your Business with Kerry McCoy, a production of flagandbanner.com. If you miss any part of the show or want to learn more about UIYB, go to flagandbanner.com and click on Radio Show. Like us on Facebook or subscribe to her weekly podcast wherever you like to listen. All interviews are recorded and posted the following week with links to resources you heard discussed on today's show. Underwriting opportunities available upon request. Kerry's goal is to help you live the American dream.